I needed to record this really quickly. So I was actually going through a hackathon that we had internally, defining some agents, and one of the agents kind of caught my attention. It was this PSIRT Assessment Agent. So this actually has a few things that are very peculiar or very particular that are really make it really interesting. One of them is it has the open vulnerability or OpenVuln MCP from Cisco. So there's an MCP somebody created to use the OpenVuln API that takes in either CVE IDs or PSIRT IDs and retrieves the summary information, just like if you were looking at the Cisco PSIRT page that has the software versions affected, as well as the summary for the PSIRT. So what we did is, what was done for this agent that was created by one of our teammates here, is there was a project created with a few tools and workflows here. One of them is get PSIRT by CVE, which is used for this demo. Because we'll actually get the PSIRT by the indicated CVE. It'll actually do it a couple times because we're giving it two CVEs to verify against, and it'll extract some data. So these queries are meant to be just cleaning out the output a little bit so that the LLM doesn't get that much clutter from the PSIRT page. And then run commands. So it has the ability to run commands against devices. Now, the other thing is the workflow itself. So it'll actually go, the first step is fetch the PSIRT advisory for the CVEs that are provided. In this case, we're providing it two CVEs against one device. So 2192, 2313. Check the device software version. So it'll execute a show version on the devices. We're giving it an example here on how to do it. Then it'll go and identify the vulnerable features. So the agent will actually log into the device and execute some commands. And it'll cross-reference and assess the impact and then send a report. So I'm going to go ahead and run it, and we'll look at the actual produced output. The other thing is, while this is running, I have actually added a sub-agent, which is the comms agent. So we're actually leveraging full agent orchestration capabilities inside of FlowAI, where the PSIRT agent itself is actually using the comms agent to send an email report. So instead of the PSIRT agent itself having access to the tooling for sending emails, it's actually using a sub-agent. This helps us clean up a lot of the tooling that the agent needs, right? It keeps the agent very tight in the tooling that it has access to, like I explained before. And it only gives it access to the things that are important. And then it also lets us have a sub-agent that's dedicated towards sending emails, Slack, any other communications, Microsoft Teams, etc., to keep that role clean and reusable. So this sub-agent becomes super reusable. All right, let's wait for this to finish running, and then we'll analyze the output really quick. Okay, this is great. So the agent actually finished. I have a few execution runs because I've been testing different models and settings. But you can see that the PSIRT assessment agent just ran 2 minutes ago, and 1 minute ago it actually had the comms agent run. So this agent's actually delegating communications, right? In this case, email notification to the comms agent, which is fantastic. If I go through the whole trace, you'll see here, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you can see here that it did get PSIRT by CVE for the two PSIRTs that I requested, for the CVEs that I requested. Then it actually went ahead and executed some commands, which is amazing. So it did a show version on the device to verify that I had the software version that's impacted. It's actually doing some other commands like show crypto isakmp policy to see if isakmp is enabled or IKV1 is enabled, because one of the pieces is it's IKV1. Executing more commands on the device, then also doing other commands just to do an additional verification. And at the end of the day, it goes through the whole analysis. It does the cross-reference impact. It finds that the device is, let's see, feature stats, IKV1's enabled and active. The device is vulnerable for that PSIRT, and then it goes ahead and creates a report, which is awesome. It sends a bunch of data to the comms agent with a report and all the data and so on. I'm going to go scroll through all this down, and then it puts out a summary. So I'm going to go to my email really quick and see what it actually produced. And here's the assessment report. That's fantastic. Look at this. So we got iOS CSR AWS is vulnerable to high severity HIKV1 denial of service. Immediate remediation is recommended. And we get all the detailed findings from this. It's the affected versions. The device that's running 1734A, it's actually affected. This is the PSIRT ID and the severity and et cetera, and a bunch of other details. Of course, we can iron this out and we can go and talk about, then the other advisories, adding others, right? There's some duplicate data that it found from the two advisories I provided. So it'll actually deduplicate and provide good analysis, but this is actually quite remarkable given the fact that we weren't even telling the LLM to execute various commands. The only thing I'm doing is providing it deterministic capability from Itential to have access to run command, which is read-only commands access to the devices. So it can't do anything nefarious, right? It's only reading data. And then I'm giving it access to the PSIRT data using the Cisco PSIRT MCP via the Cisco PSIRT API library. So it's got access to all that information. It can assess, it can make determinations, and it can provide us a report about the device being vulnerable. And also, the other cool thing, which I'm super excited, is the agent delegation capability. Right? The fact that it's actually using excuse the scrolling, it's actually using a separate agent, right? It's using that comms agent to delegate the notifications. Right? Pretty amazing stuff. This is something that was done by somebody else internally while kind of playing with FlowAI. The person that did this had started working with FlowAI in the previous day or so. So in a couple of days, they were able to master the way that the FlowAI has and the capability that it has to execute these things. So pretty amazing. Thanks for tuning in.